Delbarton, who's first and who's second?
I'm first, Michael.
I'm second, Raymond.
On Tabrum's a second neg. Do you want to just change the first neg?
Yeah, we asked about that. I don't think that.
We don't have the speaking positions.
Yeah.
Oh,
So for us, it just,
Yeah, that's fine.
just as you guys are one.
Really shines. Alright, Dosh consent, let me know whenever it gets it.
you can just buy an external mouse. You know that, but
An extra what?
They're my cursors.
Michael broke his trackpad on his computer
Wow, from hitting it too many.
and also
Really?
spilling
You
like
rage around your.
soda.
Oh, no.
Does anyone mind if I have a timer that goes off?
Yes.
No.
Alright, I got it.
I did.
No.
No, I know you know.
We're good?
We need a minute. It's not working.
Oh, sorry. I won't scroll. Okay.
Is it the audio or the video?
It's the video for folks.
Yeah, but go viral. Yeah.
Bring that up.
Fun fact about.
It's just like crazy blurry.
Do we need the video though,
No, it's
honestly?
supposed to
I'd like to
record.
flow without the audience, great, like, visual.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are just shadows on it.
That's fine.
It's probably the internet like connection.
Yeah.
We're all good? Start.
It's
One more
fine.
try,
If
maybe?
you think Jeff will really yell at you, then try and figure it out.
Yeah.
We get terrorists indeed, Al-Shabaab's around the weekend around government 24 and small armies, limited street and march safety advance for government force in the region's operation, active skills against Al-Shabaab, more permanent or independence divisions, one that can feel Al-Shabaab recruiting also 9. Pro-defense was conscious involvement, Isaac Clan, other clans period more divided with some stuff for United Somalia, 124 for Al-Shabaab's focus steps and most falling due to the fact that community-based counterterrorism operation, however, political clan fracture grew and smaller than the previous Al-Shabaab will find ways to exploit just had in Somalia, moreover, Turkish media sure Ethiopian troops remain smaller, but it's considered not reckoned Somalia in Somalia 24. Somalia and Ethiopia reached a following agreement that just remains both Somalia ensured the recognition territory in Somalia could for Ethiopian troops who remain now and period not deported recognize Somalia in spite of recruitment taking operation car 24. Portillo's fly Al-Shabaab and recruit more militant Portillo also fractured Ethiopian smaller cancer so our impacts instabilities new and 22 by that it's my terror script there attacks through government instability limited capacity the government and Michael 18th health safety for biggest generous humanitarian crisis and indigenous ability in neighboring states exploded from state clock great power involvement 24. Coverage on the red states which generate water reserve for security US China EU and military presence in the region are in Russia and afraid the region has a battleground and drug trade revival humans great power war was nuclear time 18. Other nuclear very happy China's nuclear weapons interrupting their conventional military making an attack one without taking the other most military campaign card targeting China's conventional force during the Chinese nuclear weapons while they're still able to and nuclear forces generate pressure to escalate more often this strong causing clear 23. A grapple acts as the mission to get escalate tensions cause ways to fight rather than negotiate nuclear weapons would be used if famine causing winter reducing resilience reaching extinction levels instability DA. After use ability unprecedented government given content global thematic force around 2024. After you negotiate both domestic and international legitimate simple events prove the ability after you negotiate diplomatic initiatives show the leadership and global importance as well as result in which Afghan nation enjoy unprecedented long-term stability as 23. For the past decades, few violent conflicts have occurred. The community development complement management mechanism, however, the outcomes of spread station movements caused global 24. Recognize long conservative the president probably other push for independence to go one of these only over to region Sudan, Ethiopia, Kenya, Djibouti, and Eritrea, creating fertile benefit section movements grows portray constantly calling the widespread insecurity and drawing in other actors intensifying conflict in Middle forces Somali invasion has 24. Smallest reactions burden the perception that has big Somaliland back recognizing Somaliland willing to do a war against Somaliland scenario, but throwing off sparse civil war, clan dynamics, and showing the conflict 24. There's strong opposition many Somalians against recognition of power struggle between the clans and clans oppose recognition because they know translated the government was controlled by the Aztec clan and the Eagle will allow the Abbas clan to dominate other clans, increasing ties, lead to civil war, more of the autonomous region, public and also war fertility, Muhammad 19. Someone in Portland clash with legitimacy, respective Somaliland claims and so on saying Portland, however, in this scenario, the administration is both Somaliland's independence, red line that they don't want to cross conflict with, escalates Manson 9 finds that Somaliland's conflict with Portland escalates to an actual war ever enacted is extremely delicate that makes it dangerous present in scenario caustic all scenarios for all scenarios causing MI from C1 great power drop from instability in region intelligent clay from C1 one goes nuclear causing extinction then. One and C human rights recognition, CP the African Union, make a body promise of Republic of Somaliland recognition of the aforementioned state and constitution of Somalia immediately and permanently ceasing arrest and persecution for violations of Islamic Sharia law, human rights Somalians, religiously intolerant case of 25. One, discard human rights constitution based on Islamic Sharia law and does not safeguard the rights of minorities, category prohibits other faith lecturers in Somaliland face restoration for questioning the effectiveness of the prayer to God as to try to remedy anti-Christian operations, detaining individuals accused of converting the Christian in a Somalian exposed individuals who identifies LGBTQIA2S plus and style shame persecution courts handle more severe cases relative to homosexuality only recognition acts of care Somaliland cooperation these same recognitions must receive and item as code 14 finds out for recognizes who's black external recognition may claims inter request and de facto state leaders to act as state builders de facto state leaders deliver democratic participation absent action impact of Sharia law is detrimental. Video 21. Homosexuality spread by Islam and considered a crime under Sharia law. It causes internalized homophobia. IH this process may discomfort that with own sexual orientation, ego diagnostic and personal desires and attractions are seen with other individual self-image and may cause extreme stress and repression disorders. IH may also lead to repression of own desires, internalizing mental health problems and clinical depression overall. And ECLJ 19 finds that. Sharia laws refuses freedom of religion, apostasy, and condemns prohibits human rights as well. And not only the substance of the norms of Sharia law that contravenes human rights, but the very nature of these norms itself.
I think it's mine. You've been regarding. One off.
That's it.
Can I get one more sheet, Ken?
One off in case. So.
You have one.
You have one?
Oh, one off then off.
Wait, one off, then your case.
Actually, let me have a cheap break.
Yeah.
So one off your case.
Yeah, right. That's it.
Just got an email saying that the court book was released.
Oh.
That's
Yeah,
a fair amount.
Just reflip it.
Check this out.
Either line. Just
I got it.
Stop the rock.
ready when y'all are.
A is the interpretation, there are no counterclaims. B, the violation, they be the counterclaims. C, the standards. Firstly, it's NSCA rules, it's banned rules violations are at the three scope, allowing any violation means that the activity gets destroyed. For example, no speech time and evidence violations. D, the voters. Firstly, education is the reason why schools fund debate in the first place. Without it, it doesn't exist. Secondly, fairness, it's key to a fair evaluation of the debate, otherwise people won't participate in it. Drop the argument. If you win, the argument shouldn't have been read, then you can actually evaluate it. But competing interests are preferred over reasonability, and RBIs are illogical. They shouldn't win for not doing something bad. That case. Contempt of witness terrorism. Hoopies are escalating due to U.S. weakness. Types of pay for fines. The inability of the U.S. to preserve safe transit has ceded territory and initiated to safeties. U.S. not recognizing Somaliland before the AU. As 21 finds that numerous downsides to U.S. recognition. Tiny hostility towards Somaliland. Somaliland's are the U.S. There's this course that would achieve for the U.S. all the benefits without downsides. AU lead the process to resolve Somaliland status. That's why Gramer name 22 find that the U.S. had no plans to recognize Somaliland's independence. That would be like the AU recognizing Puerto Rico over the U.S. US bases can't defend against terrorism without recognition as Web 24 finds. If tensions are managed poorly, conflict could spread. Somaliland could help the US gain a footing to protect vital maritime routes. However, since Somaliland remains unrecognized, the US would first need to get Somalia's approval. The US military presence released congestion and improved reaction time as Web 24 finds. Houthi attacks on shipping continue. Iranian harassment of shipping ended only when the United States responded militarily. Sustainment replenishment is difficult. Congestion in Djibouti limited that port's utility. The intelligence community sees Somaliland as a stable base. The US should recognize Somaliland as a bear base. Air patrol would be a permanent solution. For the escalation risk, US-Iran war, there's some 25 finds. Trump administration may be planning to escalate. Trump will not stand for having US Navy ships attacked every day by the Houthis using Iranian missiles. Iran will get hit directly. US would go nuclear as Afghanistan and Taliban 19 finds. The sanction regime is likely to force Iran to take an action that will require US military response. A limited nuclear strike would minimize risk to its forces in the region, grant US significant leverage in negotiations. This would draw on other actors and guarantee our extinction as Avery 25. Large-scale war. Russia and China might be drawn in. Nuclear weapons would be used by accident or miscalc, making the world uninhabitable. Contention 2 is regional stability. Conflict is imminent in the Horn of Africa. Al-Mawani 25. The Horn of Africa remains one of the most turbulent regions. Escalating conflicts are rooted in instability, enduring tension between Egypt and Ethiopia, Somalia, and Eritrea. Tensions are likely to escalate. Additionally, Turkish mediation fails. Tyson 24. The Ankara Declaration could cause political backlash against Somalia. The agreement could lead to future tensions as it does not address Ethiopia's ambitions. Ethiopia has insisted privately that it will not withdraw from the Somaliland deal. The MOU would not have inflamed tensions in the affirmative. Alili 24. The AU reluctant to grant Somaliland sovereignty even though it is a recurring cause of instability in East Africa. The Red Sea port deal would not have exacerbated tensions if Somaliland sovereignty was recognized. AU legitimacy is saved in the affirmative in 3 ways. The first is correcting inaction. As stated for Alili, Somaliland's lack of recognition drives tensions. The AU is seen as ineffective now because of its inaction. Staker 24. The AU is dysfunctional. Member states have little trust in the AU. More hands-on leadership would be desirable. Secondly, creating consistency. The AU breaks precedent by not recognizing Somaliland. Kahim 24. The AU concluded Somaliland satisfied the requirements for statehood. However, the AU has taken no steps to act on these findings, undermining its credibility. Eritrea and South Sudan show that the AU has supported the redefinition of borders. Recognition would align with the AU's principles and promote stability in a volatile region. Thirdly, by replacing destructive mediators. Maru 24. The involvement of Russia and Turkey complicates the situation. The potential for disruptive action by adventurers highlights reduced agency of African nations. Somaliland indicates escalated pressure on African institutions to align with specific blocs. Given fragmentation in the AU and member states' approach to partnerships with extracontinental actors, a unified stance is crucial. The AU could resolve regional conflicts from C13. The AU is an important intermediary regarding conflict resolution. Regional actions more impartial, more aware of local customs. The impacts conflict, the African Center for International Affairs. Instability in the region, a concern for global hegemony, the commercial need for protecting trade. While the Horn has interconnected complex and military bases, the African Center for International Affairs continues that the growing tension may lead into a global conflict. This causes extinction in Claire 21. Great Power War poses extinction. Weapons kill everyone. Star 14.5. A small nuclear war would disrupt global climate and destruct ozone. Nuclear weapons would destroy the human race. Thus, we proudly affirm the resolution. Okay. Yeah, one sec.
Good.
Awesome.
Oh, you ready? Oh, sorry.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's go on your first link on AU legitimacy and regional stability. What specifically is like the warrant? All I see in the card is more hands-on leadership would be desirable.
No, the first link is about the fact that currently the AU is seen as not able to take any action, which then undermines member states' faith in the AU. However, in the affirmative world, since Somaliland's unrecognized status has spurred a bunch of tensions and regional actor, resolving that and taking that action.
Where in
before escalating
evidence
the
does it say
conflict
any of
would
this? You
correct
highlight
that.
a total of 8 words, none of which even mention Somaliland.
No, absolutely not. Staker is very explicit in saying that member states don't have faith in the AU right now, and they demand actionable leadership. The affirmative is that by therefore preemptively stopping a unrecognized Somaliland and the tensions from that from spiraling into war. Additionally, there are 2 other warrants, but if you want me to explain them, you can ask the next question after I say
Sure,
one.
sounds good.
Let's talk about your C1.
Sure.
Actually, no, let's specifically talk about, yeah, we can talk about the DA actually.
Which one?
The second,
Sure.
before secession, what is the AU successfully mediated in recent years?
Kenya.
So what was happening in Kenya and how did the AU resolve it?
Also, Nigeria with the terror scenario there. I can give both. Boko Haram was like pretty big within Nigeria, and the AU basically sent their own peacekeeping operations, the equivalent of like the UN peacekeeping operations, like military force in the region, and it saw back for that. They also mediated conflicts within Kenya. There was conflicts between two political parties within Kenya, and they stopped both of those political parties from fighting by taking them in a meeting with both actors and solving back for that.
Okay, so it was like an internal disagreement.
Yeah, in Kenya it was, but
Okay,
there's
so
other,
not
I'm sure
like
there's
between
other,
states,
I'm sorry.
not between states.
I don't know an example of like if you give an example, I'm
Okay.
sure I can like find one, but like not off the top of my head.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's fine. If you don't have an example.
Yeah,
you
sure.
can take one.
All right, count question. Sure. Okay. Let's go on to regional stability. Actually, no, let's go on to terror really fast. On the impact level, why would the US ever send a first strike if your uniqueness says that we've seen a terrorist rise in 5 years, yet your evidence saying we'll send a strike is 2019?
Trump being in office especially makes it imperative that we make sure that.
Well, Trump was in office in 2019.
No, I'll finish what I'm saying. Because Trump is in office now and the Houthis are uniquely escalating in the Red Sea, we didn't see that before. It's specifically in response to like
Your evidence.
the context of what's happening in West Asia. However, once Trump is in office, the lots and evidence is incredibly explicit and recent, telling you that they would want to strike Iran if the Houthi attacks persist, because Trump like despises Iran.
Okay, so
Without the Houthis escalating, there's no reason.
can I follow up?
Well,
Like,
I'll
briefly?
take, you can take one after. I'll take another question. So the MOU, you would say increased the rates of terror, right?
Yes.
So what's the unique, is your like terror down or up right now?
Terror is down right now because
Okay,
of
so how does
Turkish
that work?
mediation.
Wait, how does that work? There's mediation?
Yeah, Turkey helped get Ethiopian troops back in Somalia, and they're the ones who are very good at it because they understand the internal issues within the region more than any other outside source.
That's us.
Right from your credit.
Yeah.
Time will start now.
Can you still have what Noah said? No, under mediators.
There's no mediators. Oh, I see it. Yeah. Spam analytics, but skills.
Well, that was 41 seconds. It'll be their theory shell, counterinter. And then our case. Sorry, I said our case. I mean their case.
Wait, give me a sec. I was getting my shoot button.
I'll turn it off. Yeah, I'm good.
We'll take more prep.
Oh, yeah.
There's.
Okay, no, that's our guys. There you go. That's 10 seconds.
Yeah. So 56 total.
Did everybody receive the doc?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Our Wi-Fi is
Yeah.
super slow.
Okay, it's good.
Is it just Blake's emails filters cause you guys to like?
I don't know, I think the email filters are usually, like, we usually don't have a problem getting that other tournament. It's been today that it's.
It'll be start by lining the shell and then CI. Good.
Yeah.
Start on the counterplan test first. They said no, their interpret is just no counterplans, and they read the word counterplan, which means that that's a link into the violation. But second standards, the NSA rules don't matter. The fact that it's round robin means the rules aren't being followed because the rules say that you have to pair each round by power pairing. But second, we didn't stand for cross, so they violate so they violate the NSA rules anyways. And also none of the standards are explicitly said which voters they link into, which means that there's no internal link on the standards, which means that you drop the theory shell on no RBIs. on no RBIs. They just say no RBIs, but don't give it any warrant. Here's why you should give us RBIs. First, no RBIs makes theory zero risk. You can win off a shell, but you can't lose. That means teams can read more shells which are worse in quality, which leads to frick theory and decreases education. But B, fairness, because the whole new layer of data we can lose off of if we concede any offense that we can't win off of. And a vote for them is a vote for the interpretation bad interp that it's then that's a bad thing. A vote for a bad norm is just as harmful as a vote for a good norm is beneficial. And they tell you it's illogical. Sure, no, it actually is logical because you should lose for advocating something bad. And who cares if there's logical if there's zero impact fairness and education while way being wrong? Counter interp. Counterclaims are good. And interpretation, the negative fiat and action is compatible with affirming. B, I meet. C, standards. First, real world decision making. Negative fiat prevents real world decision making because when making decision policy makers and people in general never consider the status quo is ridiculously low. We can only consider one plan alone. We can construct multiple potential plans or counterplans when we act because we search for the best policy option, not the first one that comes to mind. Real world decision making is key to education because it also is the most important skill we can gain from the activity. But second, counterplan ground. If the negative is not allowed to fiat in action, I lose access to counterplan ground because the negative can no longer discuss the impacts of another action being taken. Counterplan ground is key to fairness because it's impossible for the negative to show benefits in negating. They have forced to have the status quo as well. The entire purpose of affirmative to prove that a plan is improves the status quo, so advocating the quo itself will never be net advantageous. The problems of asking solvency will remain unresolved in the net world. Cut the line there. Third, reciprocity. Because the affirmative made the fiat in action, the negative must be allowed to do the same. The ability of fiat allows the actors to their actions have 100% probability of coming true. Otherwise, there would be practically no chance the negative would win because they have to prove the solvency of their counterplan. And the likelihood the counterplan would be implemented the reward. Reciprocal burden the key to fairness because without them, the debaters don't have the ability to win the round. Cross apply their fairness and education warrant, and we tell you we're better linked in because all these standards have explicitly told you why they link in on their argument. On terror, first, non-unique algebra attacks recruiting capabilities are decreasing right now. It's 1924. There's been a decline in terror due to cooperative between security forces, and there have been a significant improvement in deterrence disruption to hacks, 60% reduction, propaganda decrease. Second, even if intelligence is needed, the app is not needed for Web 24. The United States considered deepening to US Somalia and partnership for security without full recognition to keep a watchful eye fight against Al-Shabaab, freeing up the United States more flexible. Third, the US has a bunch of drones and stuff like that can also those can be used to fight terror even well beyond the region. But fourth, we tell you can turn it because when you affirm that when you affirm that actually causes we're worse for the US to go into terror because a lot of other countries in Africa don't like Somaliland, which means that's on that bad because they don't allow the US to establish bases there, which means that the US isn't able to put in bases in other places, which outweighs on scope. On regional stability, first, on their link about legitimacy, first, their evidence doesn't talk about the AU and Somaliland specifically. We tell you there's all causes of tension. But second, tensions are inevitable. The AU is a conglomeration of a bunch of different nations as unified the entirety of Asia is, which probably means that it's going to have tensions anyways. But third, it just makes the AU look dumb because it's just trying to change borders without consent of Somalia, which means that other countries stop paying attention to the AU because they think that the AU will do the same to them. On consistency, first, this link evidence is so bad. It's from a source from Somaliland. We tell you obviously they're biased, but second, they just tell you that it's sufficient because one fact-finding mission found it. Sure, one fact-finding mission found it, but the AU on net and the committees have found that it's not. On mediator decrease, first, this evidence doesn't say anything about AU mediation stability, but second, AU mediation does not involve all key negotiating actors, which could state exploitation of conflict. Case 23. Whether these negotiations successful often depends on the actors themselves. Organizations so fulfill by bringing the actors to the table, neglecting the civil and don't say actors only provide a platform to actual perpetrator of violence and short circuits their mitigation offense conflicts only, and because oppressive states get what they want in the negotiating table, and always on scope because instead of more aggressive action by states to cause more frequent and longer conflicts. Everything except for the last line. It compounds the number of hotspots that
Okay,
it has to
sounds
address.
good. We'll take track starting.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's good. So
So I guess like
145-ish.
155 ish, right?
Yeah, 58.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna.
15 plus 58, yeah, 140, like 140.
sure.
Sorry.
Okay.
Right,
That's
we're
something-
148 remaining, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I,
Left for us.
yeah.
Okay,
No, no,
that sounds
okay.
good. Okay, so it's going to be, the like theory debate, then our case, quick, then just down theirs, and then it'll be the like counterclaim.
Wait, sorry, you to be starting where?
So my inter, the counter inter.
Okay.
My case, their constructive interpretation. Just let me know what I'm looking
Okay. Do I need any extra sheets?
No.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Wait, are you, after all the theory stuff, is it their case or your case?
Ours,
Your case, their case. So their
My-
case is last.
yeah, their case.
Okay. Thanks.
Did y'all look it all?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I'm sorry. Okay. On their extent, our interpretation is that you can't get counter interpretations because they violate their counterclaims because they read a counterclaim, and we say that that's bad because it justifies infinite violations of NSC rules. For example, things like evidence ethics, which inevitably collapses the activity and it leads to a decrease in fairness in education, which you both say are bad. If we win that our interpretation is better, you should drop their argument. They say that we read the word counterclaims. No, our interpretation wasn't reading the word counterclaims. It was that reading a counterclaim, which is a comprehensive proposal of rehabilitation. They obviously know what this is because they read one. Then they said that it's not power paired. Nobody would say you need to follow it specifically for speech times, and there's no reason why we need to follow the tournament rules. We specified that it was actually like specifically the things like evidence rules, and they say that they didn't stand for cross. We stood for cross. It doesn't mean anything. Then group all of the arguments about no REI. These are all reasons why they should be able to win on theory. We would say if they're able to read an offensive counter interpretation with a counter violation, this resolves absolutely all of their offense, which means that they're able to improve norms. Then they said that if it's bad, we should lose. No, we would say you should be able to improve norms. They've also conceded that it is illogical. You don't win for winning, that you are fair. All of their arguments are just skill issues. You can just get better at debate in order to avoid being skewed. Then on their shelf, first of all, there's no violation, meaning that there's no reason to drop it. Then on the argument that it's the real world, this is absolutely untrue. In the real world, we analyze policies all the time and decide whether or not we want to implement them. Then on the second and third standards, these both don't make any sense. If they just prove that the status quo was more desirable and the affirmative makes things worse and they're able to get offense, they're just reading off of a back file without actually understanding it. Go to our case. On the first contention, they've entirely mishandled it. The first thing they talk about is about Al-Shabaab, but our evidence is about the Houthis. Entirely conceded that Trump inevitably lashes out to constrain the Houthis in the Gulf because he perceives that we're not doing enough with the affirmative positive base. They said that it's not needed, but they've conceded that we need a base in order to refuel. They said that there's drones, but there's no place for the drones to refuel. Then inevitably they're not able to solve back positives about Trump's perception that he's not doing enough. They said that they determine it because the US goes in, but first of all, there's absolutely no other bases being established right now. That is our unity. Second, Somaliland would always let them because they want to have counter-terror. Then on contention 2, we're not going for it. We'll concede that there are inevitably tensions. They say it looks dumb for them to change it, but they've conceded that they are already violating things. So either way, they're violating some of the precedent. On the last argument about how the African Union is bad, that's because countries don't trust them, but the affirmative means that there is an increase in the amount of trust overall, and there's no reason why the African Union specifically makes things worse. On their case on terror, first, Al-Shabaab is up, we posted by a month, SCR 24. Al-Shabaab grew stronger, expanded the number of countries and space the country. Their growth, and just as people are wondering if the operation could weaken Al-Shabaab, not that actually on the first link. First, most people in Somaliland want state pitch of it 14. 97% voted in favor of independence. Somaliland's people respect minorities, opinion without experiencing physical harm for fruit, which posted their evidence by 5 years, and depends become more popular. Second, internet transparency recognition clarifies legal system, which makes dispute resolution easier. Bar 24. The third definition of the type of federal governance system proposed for Somalia admitted items include the division of power and governance. It makes it front of competency clear because there are evidence that the root cause of recruitment is clan divisions. On the second link, you can turn to the app. Let's see what's bolster counterterrorism. I won't read the card, just cross apply that our link that it enables there to be a base. And second, terror already spiked because the perception of the MOU is enough for Al-Shabaab to use that as a recruitment tactic. On regional stability, cross apply our unique from connection to, which is an answer preferred there. Writer evidence says that the African Union got recognized by G20, but they've considered there is fundamentally low trust, which means that they're incapable of solving, and their Usman evidence isn't predictive. Our Al-Manawi evidence still says that holistically conflicts are inevitable. On secessionism, you can turn it because Somaliland raises the bar for other secession, but Survey 23 finds that the Somaliland model would raise the bar for achieving recognition. No other movement would have the same autonomy. On Somali invasion, you can turn to the AU would compel Somalia to negotiate. Schwartz 21. Somalia would emerge stronger. Somaliland would assist Somalia with jurisdictional security issues in Somaliland's eastern region, and their Hassan evidence is in the context of only Ethiopia recognition, which doesn't enable regional diplomacy because there are no other actors coming to the table on clan wars. First, escalation happens now between clans. They don't read uniqueness. HO 12 intense fighting broke out in southern Sonag region. And second, you can cross apply the transparency term that means the affirmative is better. On Puntland, you can turn to AU mediation resolves conflicts over Puntland. PSC 20 finds that the AU can settle the border dispute between Somaliland and Somalia over the Sonag and Sool region. They're going to try and cross apply their general defense on our AU flow. It does not apply because our evidence is specific, saying that there is leverage over these actors and that they have incentives to come to the table. So because they have not read evidence that AU negotiations fail specifically with these actors, they can't win. On the counterplan specifically, first, there's no enforcement mechanism. We would say that there are a lot of of countries in the African Union that follow Sharia law and are Muslim, which means that they would always allow it, and there's no way that they would actually be able to enforce it. Second, you confirm do the affirmative while it's contingent on Sharia law. There's absolutely no reason why the counterplan is inherently competitive. And third, Somaliland wants recognition right now, but they're still being homophobic for all of their evidence, which proves that just having a carrot and saying that if you improve it and saying that if you are a good state, you will get recognition obviously does not work. That's because it's a deeply held religious belief, which means that they are unable to resolve it. This means that even if you think they are correct about the fact that they get counterplans, they are not winning the counterplan, which means that the theory debate just goes away and you vote ah.
That's good. Okay, you said Mark, you cut a few things.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just the Schillinger evidence, but
Do you mind just cutting it?
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, I'm just thinking, I'm stretching.
oh wait, I sent it.
When we get it, we can start across. Okay. Okay, we're good. We're gonna take a little bit of prep. That will start.
I'll just like that. Start on the card. They don't even need to say sure. On the second, you think they can put it on all policies. On the second, they choose on whether or not it's going to be done. Excuse me, excuse that crap. That's like so. SDA proposes resolution after policies because they think it's a good idea, which means that we neg this inherently already at this advantage. Right. On there is on that's no. Yeah. No, they violate. Yeah. They say that their intent was clearly meant to do that. Should always. That's it. Then we say
We'll take the rest after 125.
I'm ready for cross.
25 left or use?
We took 125 just now, so we have
35.
35.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want the first question?
Right. Let's talk about the counter plan. You tell me that like you can just perm do the affirmative and also the counter plan. How does that work insofar as that like by reading constructive, you have already inherently like tied yourself to the plan, which means that you can't advocate for a different one now.
We didn't read a plan, we didn't specify implementation.
No, the resolution is a plan.
Like, sure, we're saying that you can argue like most likely implementation. I'm just saying that you structurally did not read any reasons why the counterplan is competitive when
No.
it's introduced into.
We don't have to read reasons why this counterplan specifically is competitive. We just tell you that we just have to read something that's different from the plan. It can even be a topical counterplan if we really wanted to. But what we tell you is that as long as it's different from the plan, that means that you can't simultaneously do two things that are different at once.
Well, what we're saying is that it's not inherently different from the plan because we never specified implementation and we also didn't read a plan. But I'll take a question.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so let's talk about this Kiaj evidence. It says that there was a 60% reduction in terrorism. So if Kiaj is talking about a time when the MOU was implemented, if that's true, then why did terror decrease instead of increase?
Sorry?
So your Kiaj evidence, right?
Yeah.
It says like there's a 60% decrease in terrorism. That's across the period where the MOU was implemented, but your link says that empirically
We tell you there's a-
which is it?
Wait, hold on. We tell you there's a bunch of other we tell you there's a bunch of other causes of like how terrorism does stuff, but what we tell you is that the empiric analysis gives a better analysis on the specifics on how exactly like the MOU
Sure,
affected it.
but that just proves that like alternative reasons are enough to overwhelm a slight increase in terrorism, even when like the app.
Okay, so what you're trying to say is that like terror on both the app and the neg are like just not happening.
Maybe Al Shabaab, you can see that the Houthis are definitely happening right now. There's literally not a single
Wait,
piece
but
of
why
evidence.
why would all causes affect the Houthis but not Al Shabaab?
Well, first of all, you haven't read all causes. Second of all, I'm not even reading all causes. I'm just asking you to clarify because there's a massive contradiction. During the period of the MOU, was terror up or was terror down?
Yeah. So what we tell you is that we tell you that the Garo evidence finds that Al Shabaab is like around but like overall weakened. So like
Wait, but
even
that
if
doesn't
the
answer my
MOU
question. During the period of the MOU specifically, was terror up or was terror down?
during the period of the MOU, terror went up. Can I have
Okay,
a
then
question?
why does your Kiage evidence says it decreased 60%
Because
over that time
the-
period?
The MOU caused terror to the MOU caused terror to go up.
But then why
However,
did we
there's
then-
there's other things in other areas where terror might have gone down.
Wait, so
Can I have a
you
question?
agree that there are alt causes then? I'm not the one saying that. You think that there are alt causes to Al Shabaab, correct?
No. There's other scenarios in which terror goes up. We
Where?
spent so much
What
time on this. Can I have a question?
Sure.
Let's go into the theory flow.
Yeah.
You tell me that there's no RBIs because it's illogical. Because it's illogical. Okay? Was this in like constructive at all?
Yeah,
Okay.
not on the doc, but I mean, we said it, so. Confirm.
We have 35 seconds left. I'm gonna start.
Wait, substance or theory?
You said something.
Cool.
No RPIs, so do well. That's 15, 20 left. Yeah, can't say you have my flex whatever, 5 seconds. You're just going for C1 and like the last lane on C2, right?
Yeah.
Sounds
Or
good.
no, not the last link, the first link.
The A legitimacy. Yeah, the first. So that one, the A legitimacy.
That's it. There's 3 links.
Yeah, which one?
First one,
Which is
inaction.
5 seconds left. Order will be extending the shell. Our shell, their shell, theory weighing like substance out of time. Is everyone good?
Wait, okay, yeah,
Sorry, yeah, it's kind of confusing.
that's good.
It's right now.
Say that if you have good interpretation, then have the action when it's competitive and affirming B, I meet C standards will go for real world decision making. That's when real world decision making because when decision making policy makers of people in general never share the status quo. We say that only we should only consider one plan when we get struck multiple potential plans and counter plans whenever we research based on policy. Not the first thing that comes to mind. Real world decision making is key to education because it's most important skill we can gain for the activity. Second, we'll also extend the counter plans good for ground. If negative is not allowed, the fiat action, I lose the access to counter plan ground because the negative can no longer discuss the impacts of another action being taken. At that point, crossed by the fairness and education wars, but we give specific reasons why we link it and also extend the drop the beta one because the time skew and the reason why they say drop the argument, but we'll just put them to drop the argument, drop the debater because it puts us out in the round, it's out of time skew and it's unfair and also yeah. Then go to our flow. Arno flow on real world education. They say no, there's always one policy in the real world. No, look at what actually happens. There may be one policy initially introduced, however, but to alternative policies that could be better, which is why on that counter plans are good, especially in an activity like debate where it's nuanced on clash. Then on our thing on ground, they just say they don't get it. Sure, we'll explain it right now. On having ground, people can actually premise because it's actually real world, and it also has a reason why it's a disadvantage, not something like they're trying to do. So we can.
The negative is always at a disadvantage.
No, yeah, the negative is always at a disadvantage because if there's one policy that's been studied and like meant to be good by NSTA when they put out the resolution itself, they're already at an advantage. So by having ground to clear that up, that's an independent reason why you're always voting neg in this round, and that's conceded. They said they don't get it. That's the warranted then. On their side of the flow, on their things. Yes, RBC sure is logical. You should be looking for something that bad. B, who cares if it's logical? Zero impact comparison education that way being right. Also, they didn't even mention this constructive. This wasn't on the doc. Look at it. They also tell you can't win offensive counterinterpretation insofar as their argument specific to the size. That means also offensive counterinterpretation don't work in this area because they interpret about the negative doesn't. No RPS mixed theory zero risk because you can win off the shell, but you can't lose. That means that A theory means that teams can be more shells, worse quality, which leads to FRIB theory and decreased education, but B and more fairness because a whole new layer of the debate which can lose off it. We concede any offense, but we can't win off of it. They also violate counterplan, they say counterplans and they read the word counterplan. They try framing it, they say you should not read a counterplan, but look at the doc one and what she actually said. They said read a counterplan, read the counterplan, an independent reason to drop them in their speech. Then at that point, you're probably presuming first anyway, or you're presuming neg once because people were inverting the policy making in the first place to want to vote on a policy, but second, you're always first. We're at a disadvantage. We're in a sense reactionary in the round because we don't have the last speech to work off of. Then briefly go on substance, we are then reason why theory should always come first, it's pre-fiat offense, pre-fiat odds should always be prioritized, and it also creates real world change in the debate
So
space.
you have to extend the counterplan.
Oh, then extend the counterplan. My bad. Extend it really fast. When it sees counterplan, the afternoon you should make a binding a promise to Republican Somalia, the recognition, the aforementioned state recognition of Somalia immediately and permanently ceasing arrest and persecution for allies in Islamic Sharia law.
Have to extend it.
And then we'll extend it to Somalia's religiously intolerant right now. However, we can use recognition as a carrot for them to cooperate, and then they can remove that because the states need depend to actually make it democratic. Absent actually impacts Sharia laws detrimental because IH causes long-term harms to people. At that point, even if we were like a inkling of offense, their response is just so you can do perm duty app. Then no, that makes no sense. And the initial policy implemented, it's not going to actually work in the long run. But you automatically vote first in the theory shell first.
I also sent the stuff that we read off the computer in the chain.
What?
I also sent the stuff we read off the computer on the chain for like,
Yeah.
these are reference.
I had that as all, but it's not a big deal.
I think we just because we paused it.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's my one, yeah.
Then start on their counter answer our enter. And then, yeah, maybe substance. Then we're not ready. Starting the counter interpretation on the argument about real world education, they have conceded the fact that you can do in-depth real world education without reading an alternative. They can examine the status quo and actually analyze that, but they refuse to do so, meaning that it's the exact same thing whether or not they're reading an alternative, but we would say that it's uniquely worse. But then on this argument about a good negative ground, no, they could just prove that the status quo is worse, but they didn't actually research that. But then on drop of the debater, this is completely new. Hold the line. They didn't read this in previous speeches, and it's just brand new in this new this speech, and they absolutely give no warrant why we deserve to be dropped for this argument. But then they also concede no interpretations because we now are actually specified in implementation, which means that you can permit and just do both. All the responses in the last speech to the perm were over time, so you can actually evaluate them. We can do what they're saying exactly, but still do the affirmative, and there's no reason why we specifically violate. But then go on to our interpretation. The interpretation is do not read counterclaims, be the violation, they read a counterclaim. The standards are that it's NSCA rules and it's banned. Rule violations are a slippery slope, allowing any violation means that the activity ultimately gets destroyed. For example, no speech time, an evidence violation. Throughout the entire round, this warrant was conceded and you didn't hear anything to it in the last speech, so you always prefer that. The voters are education, schools won't fund debate if the rules are destroyed, and fairness, because it's key to the fairness evaluation, just cross up the standards. We would say that it's best to drop the argument because it's the most proportional part of this debate. You can't actually evaluate the counterclaim, but even then you prefer outweigh our arguments on scope, because for their arguments to be true, they're just saying that, oh, greater research is better. However, our standard proves that it collapses the activity when you allow for the proliferation of counterclaims, because it means that there are absolutely no rules and everyone's just violating them, meaning that no one's getting actual education and no one is having fairness, which is bigger on scope, because even if they're allowed to actually research counterclaims, if you're not researching anything at all because the activity doesn't exist, you always vote affirmative. But then, specifically on their arguments on RBIs, we would say that RBIs change the norms, and we wouldn't deserve to lose. We can still change our norms if we realize they're wrong. However, we would say that on the argument about, secondly, on the off about counter interpretations, they could just read theory against this. There's no unique reason why they why they wouldn't get that. But then on this argument about counter plans, it's illogical. They shouldn't on RBIs again. It's illogical. They shouldn't just win for not doing something bad. That means there's a win for us as well. But even then, yeah, drop the argument. Then,
To answer this, the violation.
oh yeah, on the violation, they said that we violated because we said the word counterclaims. However, counterclaims wasn't even in quotes. That is what would be the real violation. We would just say you don't read counterclaims in general. Therefore, we didn't actually violate. They were the ones that read the counterclaim. We never actually, we said don't read counterclaims, not the word counterclaim. But then, on presumption, this literally doesn't matter. They've go to substance because they can see that the affirmative solves imminent escalation from Houthi terror from allowing basing in Somaliland. We have offense, so don't presume it causes an extinction scenario. Even then, on their specific argument about counterclaims, we would say that you can't evaluate it because they've already conceded that there's deep ethnic ties. There's no reason why the carrot exists if they already are so entrenched in religious divisions. Thus affirmed.
We're ready for Grant when you are.
Oh, yeah, do you have a question?
Yeah, sure. Sure. Let's go on to Houthis. What's the internal link you extended into extinction? The answer is there's.
Terror, we'd say terror is bad. We all agree terror is bad. We don't necessarily need to have a criminalized impact.
Yes.
Why is terror necessarily bad?
We all agree terror is bad.
We never agreed to that. You just said
We
your
read
last
a terror
speech.
case.
Wait.
And we dropped it because we
Verbatim.
changed our minds.
Yeah, verbatim in your speech, you say terrorism's on the rise right now. No link, by the way. And then the terminalization was terrorism happens.
Oh wait, look, both the judges agree that if an argument is drop the warrant extensions of it don't have to be as in-depth as they would be if it was presented.
You still need to at least extend a link or an
We did
impact,
extend a
one of
link.
the two.
We did extend a link.
You
One
did
of the
extend
two,
a link.
okay, we got a link.
Your link was in your last speech. Terrorism gets solved for. No warrant how.
Because the app allows basing in Somaliland.
That's not what you extended in
Yeah.
your last speech. And there's no
Literally.
terminalization. Even if we solve for terrorism, why is terrorism bad?
Okay,
Terrorism could be
even
good for all I
then,
know.
we would all agree that we did obviously terrorism
No, but-
increases in the negative, that causes death. We would say that's
That's
multiple
no-
You
countries
yourself
in
read an
West
impact of
Africa.
terrorism. It's the same thing as
But you
you
didn't
not,
co-op-
wait, it's the same
Yeah.
thing as.
Maybe
not-
because we're-
Can I please finish? It's the same exact thing as you going, oh, just cross apply their education and fairness stuff without warranting it out. Something
No,
in
the
debate
warrant
we
was,
just all
no,
agree
wait,
are
the
true.
warrant was given in the, the standard extension. It has all the stuff there. That's why it's a big, voter thing.
No,
I mean,
the
a big
voters are
standard thing.
entirely separate.
The reason
They're
why the
not
standards are so
warranted.
long is it explains the link into education and
But
fairness,
it
and it's
doesn't
also
imply
warranted
education
after.
and fairness matter. It's all I'm saying, right?
Wait, no.
There are things on both sides. that
No,
have
the
been
weighing I
warranted.
did right after it is why. You did no weighing either. So you can't even
Yeah,
say
we
the fact.
did. We
No,
literally
we
did.
explicitly say that we
did.
co-op your
No,
warrant on
there's-
education
you
on
didn't
fairness.
do any weighing off the substance. That's what I'm saying. There was no weighing off substance.
Who cares? There's only one argument on substance. We don't need to weigh it if it's all there is.
No, but okay, fine. You can have a question. This is just brain rot.
I know. Who started it?
You brought in theory.
You brought in counterplans. Oh my god.
I personally like counterplans. You can have a question though.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so,
No, I don't think.
I'll take a question then. So, do we all agree that research and education is the most important part of the debate?
We say
We say
that.
fairness and education are both pretty important.
Which
say
one
as well.
outweighs? Which
We
one's more
say
important?
Both are
fairness
very
and education
important.
because you're the only one who did the comparative.
Wait, no, that's not true. Zelly gave a literal
There's
entire
also
tree
different-
from one shell to another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just did. We also linked into the base collapse. Which is that
Where?
people, the warrant was because it was on the ground stuff in the extension actually of it, in the standard itself. Which that if we're always at an extreme disadvantage because we can't read an alternative
Why has
policy.
the DF collapsed then? It's been like
Because,
over 20
wait,
years.
let me finish.
People
Why
have
we
been
say-
breaking NSDA rules for over 20 years too.
People have counterplans have not been a norm. in the
People
DF
have
for
been-
20
people
years,
have been
and
not
DF
standing
Wait,
up for
wait, wait,
costs
that's
for
like
20
saying, that's like
years.
saying K's have not been a norm, or theory has not been a norm.
No, counterplans.
In
have
this
not been a
round, I
norm
hope
in DF.
everyone online watches and goes, this is a new norm, I think we should endorse.
It's just not one that has existed in the past. But that's
Yeah, sure,
cross.
new norms don't
That's
like
cross.
spawn in. Okay, we have 10 seconds left, that will start now. On days to drop the date violation. And then extend the 2% points, our policy, and then, first.
Oh, wait, that's crap.
I'll say in your speech.
So the order will be a bit of an overview with like no RBIs and stuff like that. Then the CI, then there shall. I'll extend the count. I'll like go for substance if I have time.
We're not going.
Everybody good? They really badly mishandled the no RBIs debate. Extend that no RBIs makes theory zero risk. You can win off a shell, but you can't lose. That means that teams can read more shells that are worse than quality and leads to through theory and decreases education. They make a bunch of new warrants on why they can change the norms and stuff like that. This is new, so you shouldn't evaluate it. But all of them concede that you need to drop them for them to have a reason to change the norm and not to read bad theory shells in the future. The one thing that is sort of extended is that OCIs that OCIs can happen, but they have conceded that OCIs solve for this. But they have conceded Michael's frontline that OCIs do not work because their interp is specific to being neg, which means that we can't read an offensive counter interp against them. At that point, we'd say that if we win any champ that our model of debate under our counter interp is better than theirs, you should vote for us. But at that point, extend the counter interp. Counterclaim for good. A's interpretation to be negative may fiat and actually when competitive with affirming. B, I need. C, standards. Extend real world decision making negative fiat for real world decision making because when making decisions, policymakers have a bunch of different alternatives to choose from one. But also extend counterclaim ground because the negative not allows fiat and action. I lose access to counterclaim ground because negative can no longer apply impacts. That means you can cross apply their fairness and education warrants. But then. We tell you that they just make a bunch of things on our shell which aren't actually responsive. They just tell you that there's more education in their world, but no, we tell you that NSDA rules haven't collapsed even if there's a bunch of other times where people have violated. At that point, on their shell, they have conceded that they violate their shell when they say the word counterplans. They tell you that the text says that you just can't read a counterplan. Look at the interp they sent. It just says no counterplans. Counterplans is a line in their thing. Also, extend presumption, preconceived notion to vote on a policy made by the NSDA. So presumption presume first because we don't have the last speech. Also, quickly on this fairness stuff, it's definitely better to vote for the neg for fairness because people propose good policies because they think they're good, which means that it's always better for it to vote for the neg to have more ground.
Okay, it's gonna start on their shell, then it'll be my shell, the like prereq between them, the RBI's debate, and then it's gonna be substance, I guess. Is everyone good? On their shell, they did not answer the permutation in the last speech that you can go for the affirmative while doing the counterclaim, which means that it is not competitive. Their own interpretation says that the only scenario where you get a counterclaim is if it is one that is competitive. They've conceded it's not because we never specified implementation, meaning that when you go to affirmative, it happens with the contingency on the Sharia law, which means that they don't meet their own interpretation. So under their own arguments with RBIs, they should automatically lose. Even then, on their specific warrants about ground, they have conceded that in the literature-based people are talking about one specific policy and that you're able to specifically analyze that in depth. And they've also conceded they can get ground from the status quo and any reason why the affirmative is bad, which all just means that there's no offense on the shell proper. Then on our shell, also they don't even extend their interpretation in the last speech, so like that doesn't mean anything. Then on our shell, Extend the fact that interpretation debaters must not read counterplans. B, the violation they did. C, they've conceded that it creates a slippery slope with rules because it justifies things like evidence violations and things like disobeying speech time, which are all bad and independently destroy debate, which is conceded. You vote on education and fairness, and they've conceded that this is a prerequisite to their shell because it's impossible to have education or any of the testing that they shell says they advocate for when you are like collapsing the debate space. They just say that there hasn't been collapse yet. Yeah, because counterplans aren't a norm. We see that people don't read them, but you have to check back on them. Then on the RBI's debate first, they've conceded that you can check back on this with more theory. They just say their OCIs don't apply. Yes, you can read a violation on what we did. Secondly, they've conceded that if we change our norms and realize we did something bad, you shouldn't drop us. There's absolutely no reason for this. Third, they've also conceded it's illogical. You shouldn't win for not doing something that justifies us winning for not violating their shell. But then four, there's just literally no reason why this is actually important to debate. On the violation, they've conceded that we didn't read a counterplan itself. We just read the word counterplan, and our interpretation wasn't that you can't read counterplan the word, it was that you can't read counterplans generally. Then, extend substance. The affirmative is able to solve like Houthi terrorist attacks because it increases basing in Somaliland. Don't go for any of the presumption offense insofar as there's still some amount of substance in the ground. And critically, they didn't extend drop the debater. They conceded it's only drop the argument because it's proportional to the initial violation that happened, which means that even if you buy everything they're saying, it just means the theory debate goes away and you vote on substance because it's all that's left.
Good round, guys.
Good round. Thank you for joining. Yeah, thank you for
Yep,
watching.
good round, guys.